John chapter 15, verses 4 and 5, just two short verses, and I'll be rather brief, but I trust that in these two verses, in these few minutes, the Lord has something of great importance for each one of us. If you're willing and able, will you stand with me in honor of the reading of God's Word tonight? John chapter 15, listen carefully to verses 4 and 5. Jesus says, "Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." This is the word of the Lord. Please be seated. On Sunday mornings, we have been talking about spiritual formation, as you know, if you've joined us. And tonight, we're thinking about spiritual deformation. Tonight is Ash Wednesday, which is the beginning of the season of Lent. Now, Lent, like Advent, is an extra-biblical season, meaning that the Bible does not prescribe these seasons or these practices. This is a matter of congregational conscience. Some churches observe these seasons and others don't. If you come from a church or a background that never observed Advent or Lent, you shouldn't think of them as being somehow less faithful to the Bible, because these are not prescribed in the Bible. They're matters of congregational conscience. We believe there are some good reasons to observe these seasons, and so over the last 4 or 5 years, Faith Church has gathered on Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent. Now, Lent, the word Lent, comes from a Saxon word meaning length. So Lent is the length or the stretch of 40 days, excluding Sundays, that leads us to Easter. It's a season of preparation. And throughout Christian history, Lent has served as a season of repentance and refocusing. And often, it's a season of increasing our time with God in personal Bible study and in prayer, the spiritual disciplines that we've been learning about on Sunday mornings, increasing all of that, and also removing something from our lives, which the Bible calls fasting. It's interesting, in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus speaks about fasting, he says to his disciples, when you fast, not if you fast. So apparently Jesus expects his followers to fast at least occasionally. Now, this Lenten season, I want to encourage you to try a specific kind of fast, a digital or a technological fast. I want to encourage you, beginning tonight and going all the way to Easter Sunday, to remove some form of technology from your life, whatever it is that consumes so very much of your time. For many of us, that will be social media. I would encourage you to start there, for those of you who utilize it. Consider a fast from social media from now until Easter Sunday, and just see what happens. See what you notice about yourself. See what happens in you. For a couple of years now, I've been thinking a lot and writing some on the subject of technology and spiritual formation. My thoughts started as a sermon series that I did here at Faith Church back in 2023, and they eventually became a book, which you're going to receive a copy of tonight on your way out of the room. I'm convinced that we need eyes to see what untempered attachment to our devices is doing to us, is doing to all of us. One of my favorite questions to ask as I introduce this topic of technology and spiritual formation is this one: is technology good, bad, or neutral? It's an interesting question to consider. Melvin Kranzberg, a very important historian, in his first law of technology says technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. In other words, it's a trick question. And what Kranzberg means by that is it's not as simple as we often think that it is. It's not as simple as taking a piece of technology and dropping it into an ethics machine to see if it is stamped sinful or virtuous. And the reason it's not that simple is because the same type of technology introduced in one setting, used in one way, well, it might be very different. Nuclear technology, for example. Nuclear technology offers the possibility of so much energy, but also the possibility of so much destruction. Kranzberg says, it's only after we have wielded technology, after humanity has wielded and especially wielded it over time, that we begin to see with clarity the inherent goodness or badness in the technology itself. Now let me ask you this question. We now have 20 or 30 years of observing what has happened to humanity as we have raised this generation that has never known a world without an iPhone. We've got all of this untempered attachment to our devices. We always have our email. We always have our social media. We always have all of this information at our fingertips. Do you look around and find that the world is a better place? What is your anecdotal assessment of our situation? The generation raised on devices, do they seem to you to be more human, more humane? What's happening to all of us? We must begin to think of technology in terms of spiritual formation or spiritual deformation. Look again at the verses that I read earlier for us from John's Gospel. Jesus says, "Abide in me, and I in you. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." This is spiritual formation 101. Notice what Jesus says. He does not say, apart from me, you can do a few things. He does not say, apart from me, you can accomplish only lesser goals. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, here's what I want you to understand tonight. Our devices mimic Jesus' call to discipleship. Your iPhone says the exact same thing to you. Abide in me, and I in you. Apart from me, your iPhone says, you can do nothing. You can't make friends. You can't get promoted at work. You can't possibly have all the information you need about the world. Apart from me, your device tells you, you can do nothing. It mimics Jesus' call to discipleship. The most important word in this text in John 15 is the word abide. It's used 10 times. It's the key word of the text. To abide in Jesus includes believing in him, of course, but it's more than that. It's choosing to live in union with him. It's choosing to have access to his power, his ways, his priorities, and that means developing certain rhythms, the spiritual disciplines that we've been learning about on Sunday morning. And Jesus says that when we abide in him in this way, we will indeed bear much fruit, plentiful and beautiful fruit. But your device says the same thing to you. Abide in me, your iPhone says, and I in you. And when you abide in your iPhone, you also will bear much fruit. When we, as a society, as a family, as individuals, when we choose to abide in our devices, living in that unending digital flow, that state of permanent connectivity, we will bear fruit. But it will not be the beautiful and abundant fruit that Jesus has in mind. We will slowly but surely become a new creation, but not every new creation is a pretty one. Abide in me and I in you. This is Jesus' call to his disciples, and our devices mimic it. See, we must begin to think of technology in terms of spiritual formation. We need eyes to see what untempered attachment to our devices is doing to us. Tonight when you leave, you're going to receive a copy of this book that has just come out. I think this is the timeliest book I've written. I'm sharing it with you. It's actually devoted to you, dedicated to Faith Church, the families of Faith Church, because it started here as a sermon series. I hope and pray that this will be somewhat of a colleague, a companion for you as you go through the Lenten season this year. My encouragement to you is to try some form of digital fast, and as you do so, read the book. Read the book throughout Lent and see what happens in your life. See if you begin to discover some of the very same things that I discovered when I did a very similar experiment a few years ago. Took some time away from social media to see, what did I notice about myself? And it was a very eye-opening thing for me. I hope it will be for you as well. So make sure you grab one on your way out tonight. We should have enough for everyone to take one. If you have a neighbor, a friend, a family member, take another one and give it to them. My prayer is that the Lord will use it in some powerful way in your life and in theirs. We need eyes to see what untempered attachment to our devices is doing to us. This is my effort to help. We have a few more songs we're going to sing tonight, and then, of course, we have the application of the ashes, which I'll explain in just a few moments. But I want to use, as we wrap up this part of the night, I want to use a prayer that comes from this collection of prayers that I've recommended many times called Every Moment Holy. I know some of you have this on your shelf at home. And this prayer in Every Moment Holy is called A Liturgy for Those Who Covet the Latest Technology. I think it's appropriate as we enter into the Lenten season together. So if you'll bow and allow me to pray this over our congregation. Content my soul in you, O Christ, who alone are sufficient to my longings. When my heart is beset by wheedling desire for what it does not have, remind me, sweet Jesus, that I have no right to a thing simply because it exists. The perpetual allure of new innovation does not negate the call to faithfully steward those resources you have temporarily entrusted to my keeping. Guard my heart, therefore, against idols of silicon and circuitry, enticing with slick veneered promises of a more sophisticated and upgraded lifestyle. Content my soul in you, O Christ, who alone are sufficient to my longings. In such moments of technological temptation, when I might justify to myself the reasonableness of a costly purchase, speak louder, O Lord, louder than the voice of my self-serving thoughts. If there is no real need for or true wisdom in the purchase of a new technology, service, or application, then let me be content with fewer options, slower speeds, smaller memory, less diversion, less gadgetry. Let me be content, O Lord, with what I truly need to accomplish the necessary task before me. Nay, let me be content with nothing but Thee. O Christ, who alone art sufficient to all my longings, I would be your trusted servant, at liberty to employ and to enjoy all things at my disposal without being owned by any of them, using technologies to further good ends, while never seeking them as ends in themselves. For it is not the advance of digital platforms that will usher in your kingdom, but the work of your Spirit in your world and in the hearts and lives of your people. Content our souls, therefore, in you, O Christ, who alone are sufficient to our longings. Amen.